So we are ready to jump into the safety versus freedom debate. I mean, here it is. We've been waiting for so long. We finally have our teams. I'm just going to review how we can jump in and get this started, um, and be ready to go for our debate this next week. So everybody has this confidential folder, not so much confidential, but let's just pretend that it is. And we are looking at getting debate prep started most effectively and efficiently. In order to do that, each debate team has assigned or nominated 1 to 2 debate captains, and they're taking this extra work on for extra credit and for a challenge. And so I ask that you kind of move forward with them with best intentions and know that their work is trying to advance the work of the entire team. Those team leads or team captains, they're responsible for delegating the work overall, making sure that the group is staying on task, but then also each day you're in debate prep, before you even begin the work each day, that person is checking in with the team, making sure that each person understands the task for that particular day, and then regroups with the team and says, okay, where are we at now? What do we need? What's working? What's not working? Do we need to alter or adjust our schedule or our expectations in order to get to the goal of finishing debate prep? It's going to run over Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so by Friday, by the time you leave for the weekend, on Friday, you need to have your entire opening statement script complete, which is the essay, right? You need to have it typed and it should look good. And I'll print it out for you so that you have it. So that is the goal. By the end of the week, you leave for the weekend, knowing that you're in good shape to start on that following Monday. So team leads are very helpful. Definitely embrace that idea and see how you can help your team lead or your team captain really empower and lift up your group. One of the first things that I want you to be aware of would be this, basically a task document. And again, this is the responsibility of your team captain to keep track of, but every single person needs to have written down, because you have a paper copy of this, what other people are doing. I mean, you have to know what you're doing, but you also need to know who you can go to, who is working with you, who might be doing work that is similar to you that you can ask. Being on a team is all about resourcing and networking, and this is a really good practice of doing that. So you'll notice it is really well organized, and you have specific tasks, and those tasks are on the left-hand column. Then you'll fill in who is working those tasks, and then you'll fill in the completion date. I advise that you fill in the date that it is supposed to be completed. So all paragraph writing will be by Friday, but the due date is a final draft by Friday. So that means that somewhere around Wednesday, you need to check in before the end of class Wednesday and say, we need to have a rough draft in shape by the time we leave the end of class Wednesday. So you have Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday should be all finalizing that rough draft, getting it to go. And after Wednesday, you're really only adding in the small details. You're changing your words at that point. You're bringing in some more vivid verbs to liven up that line of reasoning. It's like tweaking it in little parts to strengthen it. But truly, by the end of that class Wednesday, you should have a really strong, solid, rough draft with evidence. Okay, we want to have 4 to 6 sources. You need 2 pieces of evidence from 2 different sources in each paragraph. So you know that whole drill. Okay, so we have all these. You do see a life experience example, and that is in addition to one or both of the examples from the site, from the sources. And this helps in really extending your line of reasoning and making it more of a connection. And so we can talk more about that in class. Of course, you have your counter rebuttal, at least one per paragraph. Yes, you can use your sources as a counter, just as you would on the exam. And then you notice here, at least 3 Google Slides. So you have your writing, but then if I have 2 people working on a paragraph, those 2 same people not only have to write this well-developed, well-researched, well-written paragraph, but they also need to develop a Google slide that shows their writing, communicates what they're saying, either visually. That's always good. If you have any data to show, that's great. Charts, graphs, pictures, that you found, highlighted quotes that you like, just make it visually pop so that when the judges and your opponents and myself are hearing you speak your opening statements, we are also watching what you're saying as well, because we're visual. We are visual consumers of information. So then the second half of debate prep, right? Not only is it your opening statement essay and the Google Slides to support it, but we have opposition research and your defense strategy. And I think this is really cool. This is where you get into, I need to dig into what my opponent is thinking or anticipate what they're thinking based on what I know about the research I have done. So while you're beginning your research stage, everyone went home with 2 sources this weekend. While you're beginning your research stage, be on that lookout for, oh, wait a minute. Oh, that would be a good point for my opponent. Okay, that's great information for you, because then you can use it as a counterpoint, right? A counter argument in your own opening statement. But then you can also dig into, what do I think my opponent is going to use for research? Why is that useful to have? You can use it against them. You could also bring it up before them in the debate and then rebut it, right? Shoot it down. So there's a lot of strategies to why you would want to do opposition research. So think of like a politician running in a race. Why do you want to do research on your opponent? How do you leverage that and use it for your own advantage in your own research, and lift up your own research and your own evidence? Okay, so that is one defense strategy. And then it goes through some questions that you should think through. Now, your team lead might decide, hey, I want these 2 people to do defense strategy. I want them to also do opposition research, or they might split it across 4 people, 2 and 2, defense and opposition. It's really based on what your team lead decides. And then that's why I have if needed here. Maybe they just want to have 2 people stick to this little task right here. Not little, big task. But that's really up to your team lead. And then they might decide, okay, let's readjust. It isn't working, or it is working. So that's the thing. Being a part of a team is an experiment, and it's living and breathing, and you have to do it as you go. Then we jump into our favorite part, the actual debate days. We do opening statements, just like all the other debates we've done. The difference is that this is like leveled up, really professional, really, you have your pieces together. You are lawyers in a courtroom. And then we'll do our attack defense round. So that's when you get to really build out your questioning strategy, your attack strategy. And so again, these are like all the roles that happen during the debate. And your team lead will think through this. They'll ask you your feedback. Who do we want to have be our lead defenders? Who do we want to be our researchers? So that those people are on their computer during the debate. And I advise that you have 2 at least people who are researching. Because as you hear your opponent say points during the debate, you can make note of that and Google and look at some information that you might be able to use to counter what your opponent is saying, right? Or rebut it in another way. So in the moment research is very powerful, and I want you to really push yourself to get into that. So if I'm back here on slide 2 in this freedom, safety, evidence folder, I've looked at my debate roles here, become familiar, and in fact, you already really are familiar with the essay writing space, same thing we've been dealing with, right? And we have, I know it's overwhelming, but we've done this before. We have all this we've done before. The difference is that you want your 3 examples, 2-cited and 1 example from your own experience. Everything else is pretty the same. I want you to pay attention to A, B, C, D, because you do have to answer these specific questions that will help to draw out and build your line of reasoning. And then I do want you to really look at your signal phrases when you are writing your essay. And I think pretty much that's just more about counter rebuttal. We know the debate schedule. So this is where you're hanging out, you're writing your essay. And then that whole writing space or opening statement, or AKA what is the essay, you will submit to me in time for me to print it. So you'd submit it to me by Thursday before you leave. I will go home. I will print them Thursday night. Friday, you have the script in front of you. And Friday is like rehearsal. And that's where you get together with your team. And like lawyers do in a courtroom before a trial, you go into trial prep where you practice saying things a certain way and certain intonation and certain hand gestures, right? That's all part of the ethos that you're creating. Remember that word? I'm bringing that back again. The ethos that you're bringing to the table as a debater, as a lawyer. So really important. Again, I cannot say it enough. The essay writing space and the Google Slides are due before you leave class on Thursday so that I can print and I can have it ready for you to read off of. I don't want you reading off your computer, so you can read off your script for the debate. You're going to practice Friday, debate Monday. Beginning of each class during the debate prep and the debate, but really the debate prep, the team leads will set a goal for each team member based on all the tasks that have to be completed and the timeline of that Thursday by the end of class. Each class, they will assign a timekeeper. They will set an alarm for 25 minutes. And then at that time, you need to get the work done that you're supposed to be getting done, right? They're going to stop the clock at 25 minutes and say, okay, where are we? How much of that chart, the essay writing space, do we have left? What do you need help with? Revise if needed. Integrate additional supports as needed. So where are you? What do you need help with? Check in with me. What's working? What's not? Those type of questions your team leads will be asking you. Chart should be fully complete. Again, I just said that. Google Slides as well. I had the question about opposition research. Obviously, you can't create your Google slide until after you've written. And then citations need to be saved. But the sources are integrated just like we did on the prison reform essay. So you're going to integrate your sources using the parenthetical citations in parentheses, and you're going to use those power verbs in your signal phrases so that you can develop your line of reasoning. Okay, so here's your research slide. Again, these are all of the printed sources with the exception of this video. But I should highlight this, but the printed sources are all in the classroom. And I do think, to your point, after doing the mock exam, try to do your reading on paper with a pen. Try to do your writing, after this we'll do our writing on paper, but try to do your reading on paper with a pen. This is just a visual of the counter rebuttal. One important factor that I want to deal with, and let me just find the writing space. When you're writing and researching, so a lot of people are having these really great ideas when they're researching and saying, gun control, for instance, is a topic that comes up a lot when we do this debate, which is great. That can be an example. You can find evidence to support something about gun control for either side or bring it in as a counter. But we don't want the debate to become about the example. So we don't want the debate to become about gun control. You're using and you're manipulating this example, something about gun control, and how it impacts your position on freedom or safety. So we always have to adjust. And so the judges during the debate may stop you and say, redirect. Let's redirect this back to the topic. And that's fine. It's just a reminder. But team leads also will be redirecting if we're getting into too much of the examples rather than the topic itself or the position. Really important slide, slide 4, debate prep checkpoints. This is like everything you need, right? Here's our Thursday 127 day. We have slides. I'm going to print them for Friday morning. I think that's about it. What is Friday? So Friday is really the rehearsal, meaning your research is done, your writing is done, you're fine, you're good, you're more than fine, you're great with your language and your word choice and your vivid verbs and your line of reasoning. Now it's like the icing on the cake. But the icing on the cake is super important. Again, it's the ethos. So it's what you bring to the table. It's your speakers. Opening statements can be really boring, and we don't want them to be boring. We want to be compelling and effective. And so really that Friday is about you rehearsing with your team and figuring out, who do I want to speak what part? Have practice like multiple times, and then what feedback do you have for each other when you're listening to each other deliver these opening statements? And you don't have to memorize them, they're on the script, but you should have, like, think about all the facial expressions that I'm making and the hand gestures and the ethos that you bring to the table. You can make revisions based off of your rehearsal on Friday. You would just make those revisions, text me Sunday night. I have to print everything for the debate by Monday. So I think that's it. I'm so excited. You guys are amazing. I am so excited. I cannot wait for the debate next week.